Hello, my name is Alexander Belkin, also known as Sanya. I am working for MariaDB Corporation, and today I want to tell you how we in MariaDB trying to achieve highest possible quality for our releases. So work started a bit earlier than real merges, building and other stuff. We are checking our blocker list. So what is blocker list? If we suspect that some bug or some task is so important that it definitely should go in the next release, it's marked as a blocker. So just before releasing, we are just looking through this list, remind people to look at the tasks and decide if it's really important, probably with some investigations, or just fix everything. Then also we are looking on our BuildBot. BuildBot, it's a server which actually it's several servers which build each commit and test it. So just before release, we are checking that our main trees has no problems. So here you can see on the picture the last column, which represents the last commit, is green, so it's release ready. And if something just was pushed and broke everything last minute, we can take the previous commit and continue with it. So also what we have to be sure that mistake made only once. It's three main things: our regression tests, our merge procedure, and a checklist in this merge procedure. So let's check what's in details. Regression test. Each bug should be accompanied with a test which was failing before the bug was fixed and pass after. It's requirement for the review process. So all fixes goes with the test, and then all this and other tests are run by BuildBot in a variety of architectures and also the different tests. So it's just normal tests, the default. Also the test run with prepared statement protocols, test run against embedded server with Valgrind and Asan. Also there are special tests for different plugins and storage engines. Also during this process, BuildBot build packages actually the same way we are doing for release. Actually, release packages are taken from BuildBot and then released. And also BuildBot trying to upgrade from previous minor or major versions just to be sure that it could be done. And some other tests. So this is regression test suite. Also, how we are sure that if something fixed, for example, in 10.2, it will be also fixed 10.3, 10.4, and so on and so forth. So each developer push changes in the lowest version where we decide to fix it. And then in the merge, we just move all changes from version to version upwards. And so having the test passed and everything green on BuildBot, we are sure that if something was tested for 10.2, it's impossible just skip it somehow and for 10.3 or some other versions. Everything is fixed there. Also, we are merging not only our stuff, which could be relatively easy, but some third-party things. And just to avoid skip something, we have some checklist. Also, you see that it's a lot of things, and we are using the same checklist to cooperate between people which take part in the merge. Also, there are some things which are specific for some versions and shouldn't be forgotten. For example, connector C or Oracle mode parser, and it's reflected in this list. So when everything marked done, everything is green, everything is built, it's go to Daniel who prepare it's for release and making a release note, another very important stuff. So, but I think Daniel will talk about it in more details. But sometimes also happens that we need to make urgent release. Why it happens? If some serious security problem found, for example, in our or on third-party code, and we have to protect our users, and so release as soon as possible, and users couldn't wait till the next quarter for our regular release. For example, it happened last time in October, and it was something with Galera, if I'm not mistaken. So this one. The other rare problem is that our release affects many users. For example, in this November, we make urgent release because our change, which start more strictly check incoming packets, broke some third-party connectors and libraries which do not obey protocol. So we have to relax the rules to allow third-party connectors. And after that, we are now incorporating these third-party libraries in our build-bot check. Also, to be sure that we are really only fixing something urgent and do not add more bugs, we usually doing such urgent release on top of previous release with adding only necessary fixes to it, nothing else. So that is all what I wanted to tell about our release process. Thank you.
And thank you, Sanya, for the great presentation as part of our MariaDB server Minifest. I really liked how you described the release process from a developer's perspective. And it's also great that it's clear and it's well structured. I like the checklist that you have so you don't miss anything. That makes it, it gives me confidence that the release process is good and that we don't get unexpected problems. Now I have a couple of questions for you. So I'm putting on my user hat. And as a user of MariaDB, what I care most is stability. But I don't always just want stability. Sometimes I need new features from MariaDB. So when I look at MariaDB versions, and I'm talking about the major versions like 10.2, 10.3, there are most of them are in a stable or general availability release. But we have a development version. I think now this is 10.6.
Yes.
So all of these have different maturity levels. Can you talk a bit more about maturity levels and what I can expect as a developer?
Okay, so the lowest maturity level is alpha, when actually everything could be changed. Also, some feature could go on, despite the fact that we mostly do not remove some old features due to compatibility. But still, something could happen. Something could happen in this direction. Also, features will be added, So it's quite unstable thing. It's probably if you want to really try some certain feature, you can just try it, but do not rely on something that it will be till the end. Then it will go to beta. When it's beta, it's definitely what is there will not go somewhere. So you can just realize that everything is included, will be included in the release. So here probably you could start developing your application for compatibility, another maybe for using new features, probably mostly. And then when we decided that it's okay, we go to Gamma or release candidate, where actually mostly bugs will be fixed and everything stabilized. So here is definitely you can use it for development, like for development something which should be compatible with new version, or maybe something which require new features, but it's better do not use it in production because it's not so stable.
Okay.
And then as soon as it's stabilized, we see that inflow of bugs more or less count. So then we announce it like release. And when it's released, we are quite sure. Okay, so it's release candidate. We mostly sure that it's okay for production, but better don't do it. It's still better test if it's work and report bugs if you found something. But then it will be generally available for production.
Okay, so
probably pure statistical reasons, it's not so that stable as like previous versions, but it's good enough.
Okay, so basically I can start off with a beta version, but it's better that I start off with the Gamma version.
Yeah.
At least it's better if I start developing during Gamma, although beta is also still possible. So
yes, developer. Okay, so you can start it. Yes, also it will really welcome to report some bugs if you found something, or so it also will help us. Or if you find something which is not inappropriate for developer point of view, or okay, so it's still in Gamma. It's still changes are still possible. In beta, it's not so, but still we could add something. And beta is good. Okay, definitely good point where you can start check it with your application.
So you mentioned reporting bugs. Now I'm pretty certain I know how to report a bug, but I think the key question is, what is the best information that I need to provide to get a bug fixed? Because you mentioned that when you have a bug in an old version, it ends up getting fixed in the future versions too. So what can I do to help you out with this?
Okay, so best possible thing is to just make something which we could reproduce. So some provide us with some sequence of commands or some database or whatever, where we can just really see that bug has happened. It's best possible variant. It's make bug fixing really relatively easy. Okay, it's at least it's absent the first sometimes most difficult part, just to guess how to reproduce the bug or where the bug is.
Okay, that makes sense. Now I want to tell you a small story about how we did an upgrade recently on the new version of BuildBot. So we were previously running MariaDB 10.1, and recently we moved straight to 10.5. And
Wow.
I really liked that it actually worked. We just had to do MySQL upgrade. Well, it is now called MariaDB upgrade, but then it was MySQL upgrade, and everything just worked. So that gives me quite some confidence that upgrade tests that you mentioned in your presentation are working, but I'm not quite sure exactly what you are testing during upgrade tests. So can you go into more details there?
There are several upgrade tests. There are upgrade tests which test if we could upgrade database from previous variant of database to current one. Like it's mostly this system tables, like list of users and other stuff. So if I remember correctly, we still have in our regression test suite test for upgrading from 5.5 to 10.6.
Okay.
So it's one part, but probably it's not so interesting. There are other parts. When we build packages and trying to upgrade packages to the current version from minor or major version. And it's not only trying to upgrade. First, we install previous version. Then trying to make more or less variety of tables of different engines in it. Also check what libraries it uses and other stuff. Oh, maybe no, this library is different. Okay, so then we upgrade and check that all the tables are present, so nothing gone. Also, we check what libraries all of the packages depend on and compare it with like pre-stored list. So if we do not plan, we shouldn't accidentally got some dependence from, I don't know, some library. Or also we have plugin list, and we check that all plugins are still there, because it was once we just lost one of the plugin. So as I told in my presentation, if we made some mistake, we usually make some tests. So do not repeat this mistake twice. So like this, so we check that, check system tables and check packages for upgrading.
And is this upgrade test done for multiple distributions or just a couple of flavors?
Okay, so as far as I remember, it's all or most supported distributions. So it's Debians, RPMs, and it's CentOS, what else? Debian and Ubuntu. So like this, our variety of beasts we have.
Yeah, it's a long list. Yeah. So I'm glad.
Not as long as we wanted, probably, because some platforms are not really good supported, like for example macOS, but it's Apple made a lot to prevent some free testing on without having some real Apple hardware.
Right,
and
I understand.
There is no server Apple hardware. So
I understand. Now, final thing I had in mind is you obviously have a lot of work when it comes to preparing a release. As a user, what can I do to contribute to make sure that a new MariaDB release is as good as it can be? Anything I can provide except for just bug reports?
Yeah, of course, bug reports. And the other thing is that we have this, what's called callback plugin, where we collect some anonymous statistic about usage of our database, which also help us to know in which direction we should move, where we have pay more attention and something like this.
So with this, I can give you some sort of information as to what exactly I'm using
Yes.
from MariaDB.
Yes. So
All right. That is something to
two direction, like bug reports and testing, and giving more information about real usage of database.
All right. I'll make note of that. I'll make sure to have it enabled. All right. So these were all the questions I had for you, Sanya. Thanks so much for this. And I think now we need to head over to Kai.